Welcome back to our podcast. I'm here today with Peter Harris. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You want to start off and just give us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Born in Hartford.
Okay.
Born and raised in Hartford. Went to Weaver High School. Graduated from Weaver High School, then went on to Capital Community College, which was at the time when I was there, Greater Hartford Community College. Went from Greater Hartford Community College to Western New England College, where I obtained my bachelor's degree. Found my lovely wife there at the same time. We've been married now 41 years. From there to the University of Phoenix to get my master's degree in organizational management. And so that's sort of a little bit what I did. In between, played a little basketball, although people look at me and kind of go, how are you a basketball player?
Point guard?
Point guard for Weaver. Went to, Greater Hartford. I think I was an all-time leading scorer when I left there. Went to Western New England College, where I became All-American. So it was sort of, just so happens I got lucky. I got a couple of breaks along, and it really helped me.
Nice, nice. So I know sports is really important for kids to have going through high school,
Yes.
and if they make it to college, it's even better. So how did you make that, switch from high school to college?
It was difficult because I was not the greatest student in the world. And when I came out of Weaver, this was back in, I hate to date myself, 1974, there wasn't as many individuals going to college at that particular point. Pratt & Whitney, they had jobs there, Harvard Hospital had jobs there. So out of our class, probably maybe 25% of us went to college. It was difficult in the beginning, and I'm glad that I did go to Capital Community College because it did help me.
Involved in sports, and how did it impact your life overall?
Well, when I went to Weaver High, amazing enough, I did not make the junior varsity basketball team, sophomore year or junior year. Wasn't going to play. All of a sudden, the coach saw me senior year, said, come on out. Made the basketball team as a senior year. I was just the happiest thing. You wouldn't believe it. There's a picture of me in 1974. There's a picture of the basketball team in 1974. I'm the only one that has a smile on his face because I was just so happy that I made the team. From there, it kind of, as I said, no one really recruited me. I was kind of just sitting there going, geez, I don't know what I'm going to do. Capital Community College, Greater Hartford recruits me, go play some basketball there. Did a pretty good job while I was there. All of a sudden, now I have 4 or 5 or 6 different schools that now want me. Still didn't make a decision until really late Western New England College. And again, same thing applied. Basketball kept me going. And then when I graduated from high school, I got into coaching. My wife saw a little article. It was in the Hartford Courant that said Middlesex Community College was looking for a basketball coach. Mm-hmm. I said, yeah, I played basketball. I was All-American. Maybe I can do this. And it just so happens that the athletic director recognized me because he coached against me when I was at Greater Hartford.
Okay.
And he said, you know what, let's try the job for a year, let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
6 years.
Wow.
And, and we were fortunate enough that we won a New England championship. And that sort of got me into that higher education because at that particular time I was working at IBM. And so higher education was sort of the last thing from my mind. And then when I left there, Manchester Community College, they needed a head coach. Mm-hmm. And I went there, was there for about a year, and all of a sudden the job opened up at Manchester as the assistant registrar. Didn't really know much about being an assistant registrar, but the job opened up and I was like, wow, you know what? I can do this because the basketball players were there. Now I could be there where maybe I can help them with their studies, can get them to tutors and so forth. So I said, you know what, that's not a bad deal. So I went and took that job, and that's sort of where it gets. So basketball, from being a coach, kind of took me all the way to a point where all of a sudden I got that job at Manchester Community College.
It's good to know that sports can also open up other avenues for you, you
Yes.
know, so that's important to know. So you kind of answered my next question. So what led you into sports and coaching? So that was your path.
That was sort of the path. I was probably a pain in the butt to most coaches because being 5'7", weighing only about 115, 20 pounds when I did play, I was very self-confident. Now, you could say cocky, you could say, however you wanted to put that, that's sort of how I was. So there were times in which, coach would probably say something, and I would look and go, what are you talking about? Just give me the ball, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But when I started to coach for myself, I started to realize that not everyone was like me. There's different players. You have to kind of teach them and talk to them in different ways because Some of them are not motivated by yelling. Some of them are motivated. There's something else you have to say to
Right.
motivate them. You know, so not everyone's the same way. And I kind of learned that, and that really helped me develop my skills once I became an administrator on the college level, because all those positions that all of a sudden I started climbing the ranks, all those things I needed to do. All of a sudden, you know, you only have two people that, you know, you have a secretary and maybe someone else is in your office. All of a sudden, as a director of admissions, now all of a sudden I have 9 or 10 people.
Right.
And all of a sudden, as a dean of students, now I have 60 people. And so all of a sudden, you know, you have to develop those particular skills along the way that you can treat everybody, you know, when we talk about treating everybody the same, not everybody's treated the same. That's just not,
It's important to learn how, it's just, you know, as a teacher, we have different learning styles.
Correct.
So, you know, you're going to teach, you're going to talk to some
Yes.
people, then you need to give visuals, so it's the same way,
Yes.
and that's how you relate to those players.
Yes.
They need to be coached different
Yes.
ways, you know, so that's important to understand that. So you're saying that you pursued the higher education because those doors started opening up for you.
Yes, you know, and I came through the door, and I was, you know, be my little cocky self. I was going to do this, this, and that. And he said, "Look, I don't care about the wins. What are you going to do for those students, and are you going to get them to graduate?" And I was like, "Wow, you know what? Yeah, you know, that's more of a key than whether or not you win or lose on the court, is to make sure that whatever you have, those 10 kids or 12 or 8, to make sure that they're aware that education is important for them, and not just the basketball. Use basketball. Use that basketball, use that dribbling, use that shooting to get you to where you go, where you want to go, but not the other way around. Don't let the basketball use you. So many kids have let basketball, baseball, football use them, and then all of a sudden you don't have anything once that's over.
Can you explain a little bit more of like how basketball uses people? Because I think that that's an interesting term that you're saying. So like how does basketball use somebody?
Well, think of colleges now, where, well, now that they've kind of turned around, and now that kids now can use their likenesses now and get money now, where before in the past, you could play that video game, and it could be you that played at Notre Dame, number 24, maybe the last name changed, it's not Harris anymore. It's, you know, it's Harrington, but you know that's a 5'7", 120-pound kid. And I'm playing this game, but yet I don't get anything out of it. I don't get not one dime from it. Yes, I get a college education, but I'm not getting any money from my likeness, from whatever it is. And basketball has done that for years. Coaches, you bring players in, and I know on Division I levels and on Division II levels, sometimes you might bring in 20 kids. Only 10 are going to make it.
Right.
So 10 don't. So what happens to those 10? Are those 10 going to stay on campus? Are they going to complete their freshman, sophomore year, or are they just going to turn around and just go? And then once that happens, they leave, bring another 5, another 7 in, and you do that. There's a misnomer that 4-year college scholarship is 4 years. It's really 1 year. It's what you do for that 1 year. And if you don't do what you need to do for that 1 year, you could lose your scholarship. And once you lose your scholarship, now what? That means all of a sudden now mom, dad, someone may have to now pay that $20,000.
Right.
And what do you do?
And it's definitely not 20,000.
And it's not
now.
20,000. Now it's almost 50.
50
in
is
some
like
cases.
minimum.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. My granddaughter now she's at Southern Connecticut, and we were sitting there going, wow, you know, that costs
For
a
a
lot.
Connecticut school.
You're like,
Yes,
Jesus,
yes.
it's expensive. In Western New England, where I graduated from, and my son went, and when he went 18 years ago, it was about $35,000. Last time when I was at college, like $56,000 to go there.
Right. So
That's
having
a
that
year.
basketball scholarship is so important. So you're having that basketball's not using you. You're finding a way to make basketball work for you.
Correct.
It's important to know. So did you have any mentors that helped you along the way, and who are they?
As I would say, this Dean Alfred Carter at Manchester was probably my #1 advocate. You know, he sort of taught me the ropes of being an administrator on a junior college level. You know what to expect. You know, usually at 4-year colleges, there's sort of a strata. Almost all of the kids all have the same SAT scores. English, math, they're all in there. I mean, you may have a couple that are really brilliant, and you have a couple that might be below, but most of them are in all the same. Where when you go to a community college, they're all over the place.
Right.
You have some great kids. You have some kids who are really having a difficult time to do that. And so he taught me, how to deal with those particular, those students, how to do that as an administrator. I saw the job as a dean of students, and for years I reluctantly wanted to stay away from that because it's just like that's just dean is you're
You're right up there.
You're the principal. I mean,
Yes.
you're the one who decides now when something happens, discipline wise. You have to now make that decision.
You're responsible.
You're
for
responsible
a lot.
for making so.
For 1,300 kids.
1,300, and at Manchester it was close to 6,500 kids.
Okay.
So I looked at that, and people kind of pushed me the last year and a half, 2 years that I was there. I was kind of like, I don't even know. And they're like, well, you're the only person right now, Peter, who really has the experience to do that. And I was kind of like reluctantly, all right, you know what? I'll do that for my last 2 years there.
Right. That's wonderful. So, is the mentorship being utilized in high school and colleges, do you believe?
At Manchester Community College, we started a mentorship program for African American Hispanic students, where we had maybe 6 or 7 of us, either men or females, and we would go and we would mentor the kids. We would talk to them in the beginning of the year. We would tell them that we were available for them. You can come in at any time and come talk to us.
Right.
So we sort of did that, and then the last few years that we got away from it.
Okay.
We got away from it, which I think hurt. It hurt some of our minority students. It really impacted them because I think they needed to.
They need a support.
And they need to see individuals who look like them that are teaching in the classroom, because you don't see that. And I went back through I started thinking about this before I came here, and I was going back through my life of, when I went to school at Barber School, and who were the teachers there. And there might have been 1 or 2 African American, but everybody else was white. I went to Weaver High School, 99.9% black. Maybe 4 or 5 teachers there. If you take away the gym teachers, the music teacher, the home ec teacher, it might have been 3 or 4 out of that whole thing.
Right.
Same thing at community college, not many. You go to Western New England College, where there was only 150 minority students out of 2,000. We may have only had 1 or 2 in it.
And I think it's a national struggle. I think that's like what we're working with right now.
Yeah, there is that ability where you may be able to reach that kid as a teacher of color. Because I think you may know what that student is going through.
Absolutely.
Where on the other side, they may not know that that's what's going in. I had a situation, matter of fact, as a coach, I coached the Manchester women's basketball team. I also was a men's coach and a women's coach. And there was a young lady that we had, an outstanding player. I didn't realize until maybe a month and a half afterwards, she was living in her car. But she was getting up every day. She was going to class. She was doing that. But she was so proud, she didn't want to tell anybody that situation. She told a couple players.
I think it's hard to ask for help.
That's it. And that's it. I think as minority students we don't ask for help right away.
Yes.
We don't, even if there's something mentally wrong or challenging. It's sort of not in our DNA to go out and say, Adele, I need help.
Right.
Because now everyone's going to go, what is he, weak?
Right.
He's got to ask people.
But I think it also comes at home too. You leave the house, mom and dad say, don't ask for help.
Yeah.
So if we're going to offer help and show that support, and then you take it away, that's challenging.
That's right.
So if there's a support system, I know that school, for a lot of my students, this is their safe place. So we have to make it safe for them.
Yes.
Give them support.
Yes.
So college is super important, because when you're in high school, you fail a class, you just take it over. But in college, you fail a class,
That's
you're
right.
paying for
You're
it again.
paying over and over and over again. And there's no one there to kind of force you to go to class. Like I said,
Nope.
if you get on the bus or whatever it is at 8 o'clock and mom says bye, and you get there at 9 and all of a sudden you start sitting with your friends, you don't have to go to class. Nobody's going to.
No one's
Because
pushing you.
the instructors there, the professors there are not going to come and say, Adele, I missed you last week.
Mm-hmm.
They're just going to go, well, oh, okay, there she is in the back class. All right, she
Right.
showed up today. Let me just find out what's going on. That's
Right.
it.
Right.
That's it. Let me see what grade she's going to give, and then we just go on from there.
Mhm.
Not so much interested in the individual.
Right, and it's super important. I last week spoke with the athletic director from Buckley, and so we were talking about how important that support system is through high school, going to your guidance counselor, signing up to make sure that you're eligible to play in college. But if you don't have someone that you can go to, that mentorship program, I think is something maybe,
Correct.
I know Hartford Schools is trying to work. What the foundation is that suburban schools, kids start at 5 years old when they play sports. When we get to urban, they start in high school.
Yeah.
You know, so we need to start it earlier,
Earlier,
so that
correct.
the kids have some foundation
Yes.
to move with. Because give or take, you think about how many championships that Hartford Schools has brought in over the years, and these are kids that started in 9th grade. Imagine what could happen if they started
Correct.
early.
Correct.
So that mentorship can be the same thing, that you team up colleges with high schools. You know, UConn could have a program, a feeder, you know.
Yeah, it's always been a discussion that even at the community college level, should have we 10, 15 years ago teamed up with some of the technical high schools?
Mhm.
Because it would have been some perfect marriages there with Manchester and Cheney Tech. There are some things that Cheney Tech would have been able to use for us, because I know that, like in many technical schools, they didn't have foreign language.
Mhm.
And foreign language you need if you want to get to some of those big time programs.
Yes.
But if you go there, you don't have it. Well, it would have been great to say, hey, look, why don't you bring your kids over, and we'll set up something over at Manchester for your foreign language for your
Yes.
seniors.
Those qualifying classes that
And
they
then
need.
vice versa, at nighttime, can we use your facility to do some of our technical programs? But that just never happened with the state community colleges and the technical and high schools. And I hopefully, you know,
Somebody's listening right now.
Hopefully someone goes up there, because that's perfect, because it's like 12 or 14
Technical, yep.
and you can team those with those community colleges. You know, it's a win-win for everybody.
Win-win, totally. It's something that we should definitely think about. So what are some more effective ways we can motivate our students to be more prepared for college and to pursue a trade, or to pursue a trade?
I would tell anyone that was in high school, if you have an opportunity, if there's AP courses that you can take those. If not, with the community college system, there's a program that you can take that for juniors and seniors, if you have a B average or better, it's called the High School Partnership Program.
Mhm.
If you have a B average or better, you can take college courses at Capital, Manchester, or wherever you need to go, and you can take them for free.
Right.
And especially over at Manchester, a lot of the kids that came from Coventry, Island, they took courses. You can take one a semester, and if you start in your junior year, you think about taking 2, 4, you have 6, 8, you almost have 24 credits, not counting summertime, before you even go
To college.
Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden now you're a year ahead of everyone when you're ready to go in there. And I don't see Hartford, I don't see East Hartford, I don't see us taking advantage of that particular program. I don't know if it's talked about, or
We do it in the
I don't know.
springtime here at Pathways, so we do
But-
do it. I know a bunch of schools do it, but I don't think they push it.
Yeah,
As-
I think that should be pushed to the nth degree.
Right.
Especially your really bright students that can go right in there and
Absolutely.
they can do that. You can get your English, you can get your math, you can get your sciences out of the way
Right.
before you even step on a four-year campus. When they're looking at entrance as an admissions director, if I see all of a sudden you look and I go, okay, there's your high school grades, I go, wow, all right, there's B's, you got some A's or whatever. Now all of a sudden you hand in that college transcript, whether it's not from a community college, it really doesn't matter. I sit there and go, well, you got B's and A's. From that, why wouldn't
It makes sense. So now, question is, I had some students in the past that did finish that. If you're playing sports in college, you play for the 4 years. So would your senior year, you wouldn't be taking any courses?
They probably would require you, but one of the things that you could do is now that they have the post-grad, you could take master's degree programs.
Oh, to get your master's started.
So you start your master's degree program in your senior year.
That
Maybe
makes
you do.
sense.
Maybe you do take a couple undergrad, but not the rest of them. That they still all count as 12. That you do that. And one of the things that kids have to understand that 12 credits is great. That's the minimum that you need to take. But when you start adding 12 and 12, that's 24. If you got to graduate with 120, you're there for 5 years. So you need to take 15. You need to pass all 15, so you can be on that 30, 30, 30, 30, where you can get out that senior year. You don't have to pay that extra money. Or your parents don't have to pay that extra, because scholarship is 4 years. Regardless of whatever it is, they're not paying that 5th year. Now they did because of COVID, and what's going on is that they've allowed athletes to have 5th years and 6th years here because of the COVID. But once I think COVID is over with, they're going to go back to that 4 years. So it's always great for student athletes to take 15. Take some courses during the summertime. You know, do that. Take those 2 courses during the summertime that you need, and take them at your college. Because
so you know that they can count.
So they can count, because that happened to me in my sophomore year at Greater Hartford. I took courses because I needed to graduate so I can go on to my 4-year college. I took 2 courses at Greater Hartford, but I also took a course at Central and took a course at Tunsis. Yes, I passed them all. Yes, I obtained all those credits, so I had 62 credits. But those 2 B's that I got over at Central
didn't cross
over. And then when they wanted to give me, when I went to get my associate's degree, I didn't have a 2.0. I had a 1.9 something. So guess what? You didn't get the degree.
Now you're taking those courses again.
I got to take those again, because when I went to Western New England, they said, well, you have 62 credits, but out of those 62 credits, 12 of the credits you had D's. We can't accept D's. So now all of a sudden I had 50. And now I'm like, oh my God, I'm a sophomore again. So and that's what happened.
You have to be super careful, because grades really do matter.
They do.
Okay, so are all students college material? If not, what can we do to help them to pursue a career?
For my 29 years at being at Manchester, I would say that it's probably not all students may be what we would call college ready. And I think that's where the technical part needs to play a lot more, is to find out whether or not, there's nothing wrong with someone being a plumber, but we don't see that. We go, you need to go to college, you need to get this degree, you need to get a so you get a sociology degree. Okay, you got a sociology degree, or you got a psychology degree, or you got a political science degree like I got. Okay, what are you going to do with that political science degree? You better find some place that's, that you've done all that academic work for. What's wrong with taking that technical program and going over and be a plumber, and then go to community college and maybe take a business course? So you learn business, so you learn on your own. So maybe you may want to be an independent contractor where you can do that. Maybe you take an accounting course at a community college and you learn your accounting, so you can do that, so you don't have to pay someone to know
your taxes.
So
you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, so some of those, instead of maybe an SAT, maybe there's another test that we can have to find out about the kid's ability of are you good with your hands? Are you good with, maybe you just may be good at math and you're not good at English.
Or taking a test.
Taking a test. And there's some kids who are not very good at taking a test. When you need to take the test. So
there's other options.
We need to come up with some other options in high school, in the 8th and 9th grade, to kind of get these kids maybe even before they get to high school, to filter them to go, maybe this is the way you need to go. And then sitting down and talking with their parents and going, there's nothing wrong with Peter or Adele being that plumber or being that electrician. Because power's out. I need an electrician. I don't need a political scientist.
No, you do not.
So
If kids know that there's options, they can go to the Army, they can go to technical school, and it's okay.
It's okay.
There's nothing wrong with
There's
that.
nothing wrong. You can make a pretty nice business being a plumber.
Right, absolutely, 100%. And if you knew that you were good with your hands, we would know that ahead of
That's
time.
right. You could be a carpenter.
Right,
There's
right.
people that need things done all the time.
Absolutely. So how can we get our parents to be more involved with our students' education? So kind of piggying back to you growing up and saying, okay, I didn't do so well in school. How is, there's PTOs and there's ways of, reaching out to families, but how do you think that we can support them? So instead of the girl living in her car, we would have been able to catch that ahead of time because maybe her parents knew. Ask for help.
Ask for help. Correct. Boy, to get the parents involved was always the most difficult part of, and I know it's very difficult for you to sit down with the parents. Maybe there's more of these meetings that you have, like as a matter of fact, what we would do, and I did coach a little high school, we brought the parents in. My coach wasn't happy. I was assistant coach at the time. He wasn't happy that we brought parents in, but we would bring them in on Saturday so they can look and see what their child was doing. Because I wanted them to see. I didn't want them to have Adele go home and say, well, Coach Harris didn't have me play today. Well, you hear that as a parent, you go, well, let me go talk to Coach Harris because I want to know what's going on. Well, what she didn't tell you that she didn't play today because when we were running some of those drills today, she decided she didn't want to run. Maybe you do have the parents, maybe PTOs, PTAs, maybe they are on Saturdays. Maybe they can't be at night or 4 o'clock in the afternoon because parents work 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Absolutely.
So maybe it is Saturday morning at 8, and maybe the kids come in, and maybe that's an extra study hall for them to go there while their parents are sitting in another room that they're listening to you, or you're bringing in a guidance counselor or someone else from a college to give them keys on what they need to do, financial aid. Make sure you have that filled out because I remember there were many times with financial aid that students wouldn't fill out the application because they said the parents didn't want to fill it out. And you go, but you need to have that because if you don't get the financial aid, how are you going to go to college?
Right.
My mother and father, they don't want to give their information up. Maybe they need someone to come in and tell them, this is why you need to give this information up. It's not all about you.
Right.
It's about
we know
about
that's private documents. I have students here with me today, and it's an internship. It's a paid internship.
Yes.
And I know parents are very hesitant. Like, am I going to do something with that documentation? But we're here to support you, to make things accessible for you. So if we make it accessible for the parents to come in on a Saturday, we make it accessible to say these documents are important. We need to have that to establish.
Sit down that you're having with me and you have that with the parent. Maybe there is a little breakfast or something that they come in and to do that. But to get them comfortable and have them be able to go back out to go talk to other parents and says, look, I went on that Saturday program. That Saturday program was pretty good. They got another one next month. Maybe we need to go because they're supposed to be talking about something else.
Right.
Or my child is an athlete. Have someone come in and talk about what's the grades you need if you want to get the scholarship. If you're not going to get the scholarship, then where do you need to go? Do you go to a prep school? Do you go to a community college somewhere to get that? Do you know that if you go to community college now, you got to go 2 years and you got to make sure that you get your degree. You can't walk out of there without your degree.
We kind of talked about what support systems in place for student athletes in high school or college. You said that already. They have that sort of kind of mentorship, but there must be like athletic directors, and is that same kind of...
At Manchester, the last 3-4 years that I was there coaching, we had study halls.
Oh, okay.
That we would, sometimes we would be there as coaches. Sometimes we had other individuals who would sit there before we had practice. For that hour and a half, you may have practice at 6 o'clock, 4:30, study hall. We'll see you guys in the library. We have little places where we can go, where you can study, get your job, get everything you need done. Because I think that many times people don't really understand when you're an athlete how much time you spend doing that craft.
Yes.
You're up in the morning. My granddaughter's now at Southern Connecticut. She has to get up in the morning because they gotta do weightlifting, do their stuff in the morning. Then they go to class.
And then they're back doing it again.
You know, but now you gotta eat. You gotta study. All of a sudden, you now have a game tomorrow.
And so you're missing classes.
And so we're leaving at 11 today. Like, I got a test at 12:30. Well, we go and talk to the teacher at 12. Your 12:30 teacher said, look, we need to figure out a way how we can either Adele takes the test early,
Right.
or when she gets back, she takes the test. But don't hold that against her by saying she missed that test, because she has no choice.
Right.
She's got to be on that bus at 11 o'clock.
Yes.
And she's got to be doing her craft and doing whatever it is. And I know on the Division I level, those guys, they leave a day or 2 days well before they go. And the expectations are what? That they're studying during that time frame? No, they're not. They have that piece of paper that have all those plays, those football plays that they all need to memorize before they go out there. And they're not worried about that chemistry test that they got on Monday morning.
Not at all.
So those things have to be in place for those kids to be able to do that. I mean, there are many kids who could just do it, and they're brilliant enough to get it done. But there's others, you need to have that. You have to have that safety net underneath them just to give them that little added help.
And that cushion to really know, like, okay, we're going to reschedule the test. You have to practice, and we're leaving for the game.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's it. It's just a system that they have in place.
That's it.
And I think, too, also, if you think about it, really, if you played in high school, you kind of had to do a little bit of that, like, especially during, like, playoffs, because you would leave early in the day.
Right. You leave
know?
early in the day.
So I know that happens because my daughter has to leave early for some games in high school. And so she misses classes. You got to email your teacher. So you get into the hang of it in high school, it'll carry over to college. Yeah, so besides playing sports or coaching, what are some careers in athletic sports that student and athletes can pursue?
Boy, there's so many now. They have sports medicine. So if you're, interested in ankles always getting taped, or people are always getting injured, and physical therapy and those type of things, be a physical therapist. You can do that. Be a lawyer, sports lawyer.
Yes.
They have those individuals. You have all these people now that, LeBron has this great team of all these guys who are doing his accounting and everything else. So yeah, you can do that. Don't necessarily have to be a coach.
Right.
Don't necessarily have to play. You can be a statistician if you want to do that.
An anchor.
You can be
a
an
sports anchor.
You can be a referee. Because there's time always. I thought about it all the time. If I had a chance to do it all over again, if I had a second chance, I probably would do the referee.
Yeah.
I didn't like referees when I played. But I thought that would be pretty good where I could sit there and I can, just tell them, sit down, coach.
Because many of our students, athletes, come from challenging experiences, mental health is an issue. Do high schools and colleges have support systems in place that support student athletes with mental health issues?
You know what? Not as much as we should. At Manchester Community College, we had 1 or 2 counselors who their sole responsibility was for the mental health. But you think about that and how overwhelming that could be when you have 6,500 students.
It's virtually impossible to support them.
And we know that there's probably 5 to 10%, might even be more of that, of our students that might have those challenges. So we're sitting around doing this. You have 2 in your office. It could be as many as 650 walking around this campus.
Right.
How do you do that? And that was one of the discussions that was going on with the consolidation of the community college system, of having more counselors available for these students, because that is necessary. And as you said, if kids of color are not going to go in for help, the only time you find out about it is when that episode does happen.
That's too late.
That's too late at that particular point. You have to catch this beforehand. And I think with all the things that are going on with the last shooting that happened in Michigan, we as a society we just don't have a handle on that and how mental health is really affecting our kids.
And we can only imagine what the kids are going through because of COVID.
That's right.
We were without kids for a year and a half, and a lot of those kids had mental health, problems ahead of this.
That's right.
And we're seeing social workers now; they're not seeing them anymore, so
Yeah.
it's not really helping.
Yeah, and the same thing I think with special ed. How guys handling that when you can't see that kid every day, when you can't look in that kid's eyes and kind of go, Peter's not there today, and
Right.
you know that I'm not there today, so
Right.
now you can bring me back.
Right.
Instead of me sitting at a console somewhere and you're looking going,
Right.
this is not going to work.
And also you have to remember too, there's 2 people on campus for 6,500 people. So there might be 100 kids that go and ask for help, but we might have 500 others that are afraid to ask for help, the same way that we were talking about before.
That's right.
So, in my eyes, if I were to set a system up, I would probably do it where it's required for you to go see it once a month. Just a check-in.
Just check in.
Just so
Just a
that we
check-in.
know you're okay. Because it gets hard.
It's
You're
hard.
doing sports, you're in school. You need to know how to balance
That's-
that, so it's important to not let that affect you. Is there enough being done to help families understand the financial process in attending college?
I think we're getting better, but I think more has to be done, and we need to know your tax records.
Yes.
So we can send that to the school. So if they're not getting a full scholarship, or they may be getting some type of partial scholarship, and a lot of schools give partial scholarships, they give $15,000 athletic, and then they give based on need.
Right.
Well, if I don't know what you need,
Then how am I going to help
how am
you?
I going to help you out? If it's 30,000, I give you 15, you still need 15,000.
Right.
Parents can't pay 15,000.
Sure.
So now where's the pressure go? Pressure goes on that student athlete. I need to figure out how I'm going to get this $15,000.
Right.
Do I have to now go to work
Mhm.
and do that? So now I'm working, playing, studying. Can't do all of that.
Right.
As I said, financial aid, definitely that needs to go. That probably from the 10th grade, parents should start to know, students should start to know, and start to think about what they need to do.
Right.
Financial aid wise, or what's out there. What are loans?
Mm-hmm.
What are grants?
Right.
Know the difference between the two.
Mhm.
Grant you don't have to pay back. Loan you do. A lot of times parents, a lot of times student athletes don't understand that
There's a difference
you're
between
getting
what
that,
you're getting.
You're getting that loan. We're
Mhm.
giving you a loan.
But it needs to be paid back.
Yeah, for those 4 years, we're going to give you a loan for $45,000. We're going to give you the other $55,000 in athletic scholarship, but that $45,000 got to get paid back.
Right.
And it's got to get paid back 3 to 6 months after you leave college. So if you decide in sophomore year, this is not for me, well, you got to pay that $45,000.
It's still
3 months,
there.
That $45,000
Just because
is
you
still sitting there.
stopped.
Just because you
Mhm.
stop, where they want that $45,000, and the federal government wants their $45,000.
Right.
So those things, and what's a private loan and what's subsidized and what's not subsidized, you need to know, because that will cost you money in the long run.
So having that financial planning. I know we do it. It's interesting. We do it here at Pathways. We do it for the seniors. So how often do you think students should visit with their guidance counselors in preparation for college?
Sophomores, start to think about it. Junior year, there probably needs to be, how many marking periods do you have?
There's 4.
4. I think every marking period you have that. And in senior year, I think it's one of those situations where I think it's every month that you need to go in. Because all of a sudden, something changes.
Yes.
That school that you thought you can go to and that you figured it out, and all of a sudden now they come back and they go, I don't have $30,000.
Right.
So now, Ms. Clark, we need to find some other place. Well, if you don't have that meeting with me until either the next marking period or the marking period after, you don't know. That could be 3, 4, 5 months that now have gone through. But if you have that,
Especially for the clearinghouse.
correct.
The classes you need to take.
Yeah, that's right. So you need to tell, it's a monthly check-in of, it's everything. Are we still on this path to go to Columbia? Are you still here? And if we are, then these are the things you gotta do. But you gotta tell me that all of a sudden you don't want to do that now we're gonna have to go on. If it's gonna be UConn, might be a little easier now. We might be able to, but we now have to turn.
Right.
You know, you can't tell me June 1st that all of a sudden, you know, I really don't want to do
Only
that.
have 3 weeks left.
Yeah, you know, we've been doing this now for 8 months, and now all of a sudden 2 weeks before you decide now you don't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
When did you find this out? Well, probably 5 months ago.
Right. So now my last question is any advice that you have for high school students that are playing sports and want to pursue into college? And it doesn't have to be like a Division I, you know, all divisions.
Just all division, yeah.
Any advice like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, like just an overall?
Yeah, I think that what you just brought up is really important, is that a very small percentage of athletes make it to that Division I elite level, and that there are other levels that you can still pursue and still play your sport. There are those Division III schools. Division III schools, there aren't any scholarships, but you may get a chance to play where you may not get a chance to play. For me, I was fortunate enough, as I said, 5'7", 120 pounds. Division I schools are not going looking for me. As much as everyone said that I could play, I'm good, you're that, you're everything, you're the best, 5'7", 120, you're not playing on that level, regardless of how good you were at that particular point. So it needed somewhere else to go. And these kids have, and you have to be, and I think you have to tell kids, you have to be realistic in what it is as well.
Yes.
Is that 6'1", 195, and you're playing center at Hartford Public High School, you're not going to be playing center at UConn. Or you're not going to be playing at Nebraska, or you're not going to be playing at Alabama. That's not going to be. But you could play at a Division III school. You can go down to the University of New Haven.
Right.
You can go to some.
But there are people that did from Hartford.
There are some.
There are some.
There are some.
There are a handful.
And there's that handful. And I never want to tell anyone that you know, don't defer any dreams that you may have.
Absolutely.
But you also have to be realistic. You also need to have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C.
Your backup plan is always important to know.
Because if you don't have those, and all you have is A, and A goes out the board, then what do you do? If you have a B and a C, and you've sat with your guidance counselor and says, this is plan A, and this is where I want to go, and we're going to go that way, but B and C is sitting there, and it's realistic that I can do that, have those plans always ready.
Set goals.
Set goals.
And know what you want to do. Because if you have that, like you said, that plan.
It becomes very difficult.
Well, thank you, Peter Harris. I
Thank you.
appreciate you coming here, and I thank Sons of Thunder, Michael and Bill, for having the podcast running. And we'll see everybody next week with our new guest. And again, Peter, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.